warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, how are you guys for today? I hope you guys are always be happy and always in a good condition. But before we start, let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Sifa Rahma Ayu. You can call me Sifa. And with my other two partner.
Hi everyone, my name is Lintang Aurellia Putri Pawitra and you can call me Aurel.
Hello everyone, my name is Ika Intan Aries, but you can call me Intan. Hello!
Welcome to our teaching video. We are really happy that you guys are here with us for today. So, what are we going to do in this video? In this video, we are going to look at a poem called To An Unknown by Helen Dudley. In this video, we are gonna do three main things. For the first, we are reciting the poem together. And next, we will explain and analyze the poem. And then we will gonna learn about nouns and verbs based on this poem. So, by the end of this video, you guys will be able to know the background and meaning to an noun, understand how the poem connects to its time period, learn the important elements of poetry, and then learn noun and verbs through poetry. So, are you ready to learn with us? Let's begin and explore this wonderful poem together.
To An Unknown by Helen Dudley. I have seen the brightest stars that wander on through space, even the sun and the moon, but not your face. I have heard the violin, the winds and the waves rejoice in endless minstrelsy, yet not your voice. I have touched the trillium pale flower of the land, coral, anemone, and not your hand. I have kissed the shining feet of twilight lover rise, open the gate of dawn, open not your eyes. I have dreamed unwanted things, vision that witches brew, spoken with image, never with you.
Helen Dudley poem To An Unknown, published in 1930, is a great example of modernist poetry. This style of poetry was part of Imagine movement which started in early 20th century. Do you know what Imagine is? Well, Imagine was a reaction against the flower language, or we call so love language, and the moral themes of Romantic and Victorian poetry. Instead, it focused on being clear, precise, and using strong image. Modernism was all about breaking away from traditional art forms during a time of a big change in society, like wars and new technologies. Modernist poets wanted to show the complexity of life around them. They moved away from old-fashioned language and sought new ways to express their thoughts and feelings. They aimed to capture the changing world in their poetry while also recognizing that words have their limits. Who is Helen Dudley? Helen Dudley was born in 1886 in Chicago, Illinois, and she plays an important role in early 20th century poetry. Even though not many people know her name today, her poems are known for their gentle beauty and deep understanding of feelings like love, loss, and longing. Dudley lived during a time when many new literary ideas were emerging, including modernism and imagism. This movement wanted to change how poetry was written and what subjects it covered. Although she didn't publish a lot of work and is often overshadowed by more famous poets of her time, her writing offers a thoughtful look at a personal experience and emotion. Helen Dudley poetry reflects the changing views of her time. exploring what it means to be a human in a rapidly evolving world. Her work continues to inspire those who appreciate the beauty in a honest experience and the exploration of personal feelings within the large context of modern life. There are characteristics of modern poems that make it unique from other eras. Modern poets can write about almost anything. Yes, anything. It's called diverse variety of themes. They draw inspiration from everyday things like railway trains, telephones, and city life. Unlike earlier poets who focused on grand themes, modern poets believe that the entire universe can be a subject for poetry. Next is realism. Realism is a major feature of modern poetry. Poets aim to depict life as it truly is, showing both the beauty and its harsh realities. This approach emerged as a reaction against the overly romanticized views of the past, focusing instead of the real struggle and experience of people. Many modern poems carry a sense of pessimism. Poets often reflect on the tragedy and suffering of life, leading to feelings of sadness and disillusionment about human existence. While modern poetry often moves away from traditional romantic themes, it still includes elements of romance but presents them in a more realistic way. Next is nature. Nature continues to inspire modern poets, but they view it differently than earlier poets did. Instead of seeing nature as mystical or spiritual, modern poets appreciate its beauty in a more straightforward way, capturing images of landscapes, birds, and clouds without attaching deep spiritual meaning. Modern poetry often emphasizes humanitarian values and a sense of democracy. Poets focus on the lives of ordinary people, like workers and laborers, highlighting their struggle and experience rather than just those who are wealthy or powerful. Modern poets prefer simple and direct language. They often use free verse, which means they don't stick to traditional rules about meter or rhyme. This allows for a more natural flow that reflects their thoughts and feelings. Modernist poets love to experiment with language, form, and rhythm to express themselves in new ways. This experimentation helps them convey their unique perspective and emotion. Finally, modernist poetry is all about individualism. Poets focus on a personal experience and inner thoughts, often exploring what it means to be unique in a rapidly changing world. Now we're going to talk about characteristics modern era related to the poem. The first one is individualism. The poem expresses personal experience and deep emotions, reflecting an emphasis of the individual voice within the context of social change. The example is in stanza 1, in I have seen the proudest stars that wander on through space, even the sun and the moon, but not your face. I represent the personal experience. Second one is reaction against tradition. Dudley rejects the more ornate Victorian forms of poetry, using image styles that emphasize clarity and precision in language. Next is search for meaning. Themes of longing and loneliness in the poem reflect the search for meaning amid the disillusionment experienced by social after World War I. The example is stanza 1. I have seen the proudest stars that wander on through space, even the sun and the moon, but not your face. This line represents the feeling of longing. The next is connection of nature. The description of natural cycle in the poem reflects an awareness of change and uncertainty, which is characteristic of modernism. The example in stanza 1 is, I have seen the proud stars that wander on through space, even the sun and the moon, but not your face. Stars, space, sun, and moon represent the nature itself.
Now, let's talk about the elements of this poem. This poem comprises 5 stanzas of 4 lines with a consistent ABCB rhyme scheme. As an example, you can see in the stanza 1, I have seen the proudest stars. Stars is a rhyme A. That wander on through space. Space is a rhyme B. Even the sun and moon. Moon is a rhyme C. But not your face. Face is a rhyme B. Poetry isn't just about the words. There's also a sound. Dudley used rhyme and consonants to weave an emotional melody. For example, in the lines, I have seen the proudest stars that wander on through space, even the sun and moon, but not your face. So space rhyme with face. I have heard the violin, the winds and waves rejoice in endless minstrelsy, yet not your voice. So rejoice rhyme with voice. Now, we're going to explore a beautiful poem by Helen Dudley. It's about longing and the deep feelings we have for someone special. The poem To One Unknown by Helen Dudley is about deep longing and the pain of missing someone special. It describes all the wonderful things they've seen and experienced in nature like stars, music, flowers, and even magical dreams, but say that none of it feels complete without the presence of their beloved. Each stanza shows a contrast, experience beauty in the world, but every time they are reminded of what's missing. Let's break it down stanza by stanza. The poem starts with, I have seen the proudest stars that wander on through space. This means we have looked at amazing things in the sky, like stars, the sun, and the moon. These are beautiful and grand, but even with all this beauty, it feels incomplete because they haven't seen their loved one's face. This shows how even in a big universe, personal feelings can make us feel small and empty. In the next part, I have heard the violin, the winds and waves rejoice. Here, we hear about beautiful sounds from music and nature. We enjoy these sounds but still feel a gap because they long to hear their loved one's voice. This highlights how even when surrounded by beauty, there can be a feeling of loneliness without that special connection. Next, I have touched the trillium, pale flower of the land. They describe touching delicate flowers and coral. These represent beautiful things in nature that are temporary. However, not being able to touch their beloved hands makes them feel sad. It emphasizes how physical touch can remind us of what we are missing. In this stanza, it more reflects on intimate moments. I have kissed the shining feet of twilight. This means they cherish moments of day turning into night. The gates of dawn suggest new beginnings where they hope to meet their loved one. Yet, they feel sorrow because they haven't looked into their beloved eyes, the windows to their soul, making them feel emotionally isolated. Finally, in this last part, it admits to dreaming about unwanted things, and visions that feel magical. They talk about speaking with image instead of a real conversations with their loved one. The line, "never with you," at the end is powerful. It shows a deep sense of emptiness and longing that remains unfulfilled. With these poetic elements in mind, let's explore the poem's key themes. The first is yearning and absence. Through repeated phrases like "not your face," "not your voice," and "not your hand," Dudley creates a sense of emotional emptiness. These encounters with nature's wonders like stars, music, and flowers only highlight what's missing. It's a reminder that even the most beautiful experiences can feel hollow when someone important is absent. The second theme is nature and supernatural. The poem blends these realms from the tangible beauty of flowers to mystical visions of witches and dreams. Yet, no matter how far search on earth or beyond, it's never enough. The connection she longs for remains out of reach.
So, do you know what noun is? A noun is a name giver. It's the word we use to name people, places, things, animals, ideas, or even abstract concepts like love or dreams. Without nouns, how will we talk about anything? In the poem, nouns work like an artist's brush, painting vivid emotional and visual pictures in the reader's mind. They make the poem come alive. Next is types of nouns. There are different types of nouns. Let's look at the main types with some examples. For the first is common nouns. These are general names for things that do not refer to a specific thing. For example are dog, book, river, teacher, and student. The second is proper nouns. These are specific names of people or places. For the example are Tina, Eiffel Tower, and Mount Everest. The third is concrete nouns. These are things we can see, touch, or feel. For the example are apple, water, and music. And for the last is abstract nouns. These are things you cannot touch, feeling, ideas, or concept. For the example are happiness, freedom, and love. Alright, before we go to the next part, we have explained the different types of noun, right? Now, it's time to test your knowledge with a fun challenge. I'm going to show you some words and picture from the poem, and your task is to figure out what type of noun of each one. Are you ready? Let's begin the test. Next is how nouns work in sentence. Nouns can do different jobs in sentences. Here are some examples from the poem. Number 1 is subject. The subject is the noun that does the action or is being talked about. For example, is the star shine brightly. Who is shining? The star. So the star is the subject. Number 2 is object. The object is the noun that receives the action of the verb. For example is, I touched the flower. What did I touch? The flower. So the flower is the object. And for the last is object of a preposition. Nouns can also follow a preposition like with, to, in, or of. For the example is the gates of down. Down is the object of the preposition of. Next is examples of noun from the poem. Now let's uncover the nouns hiding in the poem. Can you find them all? Let's take a look in the first stanza. The nouns in this stanza are stars, space, sun, moon, and face. And next, let's take a look in the second stanza. Now, the nouns here are violin, winds, waves, minstrelsy, and voice. Now, let's take a look in the third stanza. The nouns in this stanza are trillium, flower, coral, anemone, and hand. Now, let's take a look for the fourth stanza. The nouns in this stanza are feet, twilight, gates, down, eyes. And let's take a look for the last stanza. Here are the nouns in the last stanza: things, visions, witches, and images. Okay, so what exactly is a verb? Or do you guys ever heard about verb before? So, verb is a word that shows action or tells us the state of being of the subject in a sentence. Verbs answer the big questions. What's happening? In the poem, the verb help describe what the speaker is doing or what they have experienced, letting us feel their emotion and connect with their journey. Next is types of verbs. There are different types of verbs that do different jobs in sentences. Let's break it down with some example. Number 1 is action verbs. These verbs show something happening, whether it's physical or mental. For the examples are run, jump, study, sing, and eat. These verbs tell you what the subject is doing. For example is, I study for test. What am I doing? I'm studying. Number 2 is linking verbs. These verbs don't show action. Instead, they link the subject to a description or state of being. For examples is am, are, was, were, and is. The sentence example: she is a great dancer. Is as the linking verb in here. And the last is auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. These verbs work with the main verbs to form different tenses, questions, or negatives. For examples are have, will, can, and must. For the sentence example is I will call you later. Will as the helping verbs in here. Next is how verbs work in sentences. Verbs do a lot of important work in sentences. Let's check out how they help give meaning to everything. Number 1, main verbs. These are the core verbs of the sentence. They tell us the main action or state of being. For example is, I have heard the violin. Heard is the main verb. It shows what the speaker did. Number 2, verb phrases. Sometimes we have more than one verb working together. A verb phrase is when a main verb teams up with an auxiliary verb to show more details. For the example is, I have touched the trillium. Have touched is the verb phrase, where have is helping touch. Alright everyone, Now it's your turn to test your verb skills. I will show you lines from the poem with missing verbs. Your task is to figure out the correct verb for each blank. Think about the action happening in the sentence. Are you ready? Let's begin the test. Great job on the quiz, everyone! You have done an amazing job identifying the nouns and verbs in the poem. And that's it for today's lesson, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and explore the beautiful poem To an Unknown by Helen Dudley. I hope you found this lesson fun and helpful. Thank you for being such amazing learner, everyone. Stay curious, keep practicing, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye bye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.